I'm late. I'm 2 minutes late for a show that I wasn't sure I was even gonna get to, but I did. So hello, everyone. I'm tired. It's Friday. Yay. I have to put my shade. So when I come in here, I have to run around and shut my shades because it's really odd. The lighting is so bright in here. But I truly like to have, um, hey, oh, it's Kristen. It's good to see you. I truly like to have a view of the outside. So I am, Cheryl. I am Cheryl. I'm Cyberchick in Boston. Sorry. Usually I'm sitting in here for minutes and minutes, and literally I just flew in and I was already 2 minutes late. And if you know me, if you're on time, you're late. So I'm Cyberchick in Boston. I have a nice, small, intimate channel here, trying to fight off the cult, twin flames universe. That's why we started this channel. My niece is a survivor. She was a member for 7 years. My family was in the Amazon documentary, Desperately Seeking Soulmate, Escaping Twin Flames. I actually need to do a show of the cult because I've had a lot of people say, I didn't know your family was in a cult. Yeah, I know. Oh, Chris, you guys, the people here are like, yeah, we know. We've heard this before. So, hi, Grammy Kisses. Thank you. But today we're going to talk about the Epstein files, which is probably why I was late because it's really been hard to. I'm not a journalist. I just want to get the survivor stories out there. I don't want this to be buried. I'm doing some of my own sleuthing through a hacker community that I'm involved in. So they're able to take the files and download them in a video. Anyways, I'll get into that. Hi, CT sister. Hey, Side Eyes Jess. Oh, it's Kristen. My philosophy is that I tell my boys that, like, if you're on time, you're late. So happy Friday before I jump into all that. I'm tired. I was up. I didn't sleep at all last night. My husband didn't sleep at all last night. We went out Thursday night, just went out to dinner, whatever. Didn't get home late. I mean, I was home by 9. I had a call at 2 a.m. That doesn't happen very often. It was an international call that I had to join. So I was in my mind thinking, hurry up and fall asleep. You better fall asleep. If you do not fall asleep, you're going to be screwed. And then it's midnight, right? And now I'm like, what if I don't wake up for this call? I'm going to have bedhead. I better get up. Okay, so you know what I'm going through. Get up, do the call at 2. It was just like 45 minutes. But then my husband, for some reason, my nervous energy must have kept him up. So then we're talking. Now it's 3:30. I'm like, John, we have to go to sleep. And we've got people coming at the house to the house at 7. I'm out of here at 7 because I don't like to he was dealing with them. So I think I had like an hour and a half sleep. Anyways, so that's why I was able to jump onto live streaming on X has issues. I don't think I ever can stream on X. I always get an error message. I don't care. Whatever. If I do, I don't. Dizzy OD, I'm fighting with a Jess hater in X who claims mods were deleting comments. And you know what? Honestly, I did accidentally delete. If you know Ms. Holmes, I think it was, I was at physical therapy and looked down and I had deleted a message. I felt horrible. I put it out to her. So it's really sensitive with YouTube. If you're scrolling and looking at the chat and you hit on someone's comment, it automatically pops up and says, do you want to time this person out? And if you're not paying attention, because I was on the bike and I just was scrolling and I looked, so I did. So if it's MIZ, I'm so sorry. I did put it in the chat that I was sorry. So I don't know if you could share who it is, but if it were the trolls, then we did those on purpose. Because, I can tolerate, I don't really care if someone's trolling, but if they start to be mean to people in the chat and calling people in the chat fat or lazy then I'm like, no, you're not staying here. So, yeah, so Dizzy does it. She knows. Hi, C-Star. So anyways, all that to say, then Jimmy's show is on first thing in the morning and I hadn't slept. So that was funny. And, he's just so funny. That show was really funny. So, hey, Heather, my punctuality has gotten so much worse lately as I get older, social things, but for work or medical things, I'm always early. I get that. Oh, no, I don't think we were doing that, Dizzy. Dizzy says she says y'all deleting comments about Jess and Meredith. I don't think we were. So it's so nice to see everyone. So all that to say I'm tired, but that's okay. We'll have fun. Um, I think I blocked Heather by accident and had no idea how to fix it. If you click on their name, then it'll take you to like, hey, do you want to unhide this user? That's what it is. If you see their name or if you see the block, that will help too. So where's Nancy? Is Brian the only one looking for Nancy at this point? I'm concerned. I saw a funny video of a woman, I don't know who she was and why she popped up on my algorithm, who was just throwing her coat and boots on, and she was like, "I'm going to Arizona. No one's looking for Nancy." And I'm like, "No, Brian's looking for Nancy." So Brian yesterday has a video of him going to Mexico. I mean, he's looking for Nancy. He's probably going to find Nancy. I did not know, someone's leaving my house. My husband is. I did not know that you could just walk across the border of Mexico with no paperwork, with nobody being there. You just have to cross through the gates. If you saw his video, he just walked through gates. Um, isn't that something? I don't know who that is, Dizzy, from Jess's chat. I don't even know. Oh, it's the account on X. Okay. Yeah, so I was like amazed that he just wanted no paperwork, no, there was actually nobody. They said that, so the locals, they were saying, oh no, you could never sneak someone across the border because there's video and they're watching. And I'm like, I don't really know. If you just said to Nancy, I'm going to kill you if you act in a suspicious manner, they could, I feel like they could have gotten her over. Hi, Bay Harbor Beauty. Oh, did I bring in? I wanted to show the eye cream. I didn't bring it in. Bay Harbor Beauty sent me some fantastic eye cream. I'm not even kidding you, Julie. It's fabulous. I use it twice a day. It's for under your eyes, you know, the crow's feet and the eyelids. Soft, silky, and doesn't irritate my eyes. Like, doesn't make my eyes water. So go to Bay Harbor Beauty and get the eye cream if you haven't tried it yet. It's fantastic. Bay Harbor Beauty, that's what I was just saying. He went without a passport. He like, I don't know if he didn't even have a passport. They didn't ask him. There was no one asking him. And the other funny thing is he was asking all the locals, do you know Nancy? Have you heard of the Nancy Guthrie case? Are you aware of it? And their answer was no, but I'm wondering if maybe they're a little gun shy of a camera and a reporter talking to them, because how do they not know? It's like it was literally less than an hour away. It was very strange. So Brian's going to find Nancy. I'm worried. I don't know. Every day I'm like, how have we not found her yet? I'm always asked for my passport, even at the airport. I'm asked all the time. And I'm also the person that's always selected for extra screening at the TSA. Always. That's me. It's always me. So I had to get out of the house this morning and I was tired. And so I went to Whole Foods. I want to share my experience at Whole Foods. First of all, my husband loves to shop. He's going to Whole Foods now, even though I went this morning, because I will always forget something. And he's a shopper. He loves to shop. But I was out of the house and I said, I'll go. It's going to snow here. I definitely needed some oranges for my water and some things. They have the carts now. Okay. I don't want to talk to people when I go shopping. If I can order everything, but I don't want people picking out my fruits and my veggies and my food, because during the pandemic, I tried doing Instagram. It worked fine for my mother-in-law. But for me, I hated everything they picked out. It was like it was sending my son who had no clue. So instead of giving me tomato sauce, it would give me pizza sauce. I mean, it was the things they were substituting weren't even substitutes. So I just, and the produce was, I'm like, this is brown and horrible. So I'm not gonna do online shopping, but I do love Whole Foods, and I know I'm crazy. Everyone likes Market Basket around here. I'm a Whole Foods girl. And they have the carts now that have the register. Oh, I took a picture. Let me see. I'm gonna send it. Hold on. I'm not sure I took a picture. Let me see. I sent it to my husband, but I don't know if I kept it. Oh, yeah. Can you see? I don't know if you'll be able to see. I don't want to send it. I don't know if you can see it, but okay, there it is. That's it. It's a register with a scale and the cart. I don't have to talk to anyone. I can check out as I'm going. It was phenomenal. And you know me, I love technology. So I go in and I get my cart and I'm looking over, I'm like, no one's touching these bad boys. And I'm like, this is new tech that I can learn while I'm shopping in Whole Foods. Phenomenal experience. Came home all excited, told my husband about it, and he's like, you're missing the entire, I think maybe he's Jess. He's like, you're not talking to anyone. I don't want to talk to anyone. I just want to get my things. I was in and out in 20 minutes. And I bagged as we went. No one was watching me either. Although they are watching you because the back of the register has a camera. So if you put items in that weren't recorded, not that I'm stealing, but I put in peeled garlic, but I put in 2. So I had to go back and delete one, but I accidentally deleted both of them. I didn't realize it. And it kept pinging me saying, you put in an item, but it's not accounted for. So that they're watching you. It was so cool. Hi. Hi, Zach. Welcome. We're talking about Whole Foods and my really cool experience. Did you see it? I'm going to show you it again. It was phenomenal. Look, it's a register. Let it come into view. Register, scale. Oh my God, are you guys seeing what I bought? Let's see what was in there. An onion, a pepper, nothing bad. Okay, you guys can screenshot that. I don't care. So that was my Whole Foods experience. I was so excited. Now my husband's going, he's only going to get one thing that I forgot, and he's going to talk to the cash register. And I don't want to. So if you get an opportunity to use those carts, yeah, they probably do. It's the same thing as, so that's a funny story too. Hi, Side Eyes, Jess. I didn't have my handbag. I don't know what the hell happened. Like I said, I had no sleep last night. Oh, wait a minute, I'm blurry because I held that up. Hold on. Do I look blurry to you guys? Technology. Hold on, let it adjust. That was my bad. Camera with my phone. I can't have that. Hold on. Is it better or blurry? Okay, I'm going out and coming back. I can't have a blurry show. I'll be right back. Boom. Okay, thank you. I have a pro camera that's external to my laptop, and it's very sensitive when you're zooming in and zooming out. Hold on 1 second. So, what was I saying? I was saying, yes, you look blurry. Zach, maybe I should go back to that. Okay, so I was really tired. What was I saying? Being able to do that before physical therapy was so awesome, and it was quick, and I have no idea what I was saying, but it was my Whole Food story, and now my husband will be chatting with the cashier. I don't know. I will go to restaurants for their online ability, and he won't. Like he wants to talk to people. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Is that bad? Swirl your mouse around. I was swirling, Diane. Thank you. I was. I don't know. It's I've had that. I probably could shut my camera off, but that's okay. It looks fine now. Okay, so what do we? Oh, you know what? I've never done a poll before. Do you guys mind if I practice with you? Because it's a nice small group. Everyone introduce yourself in the chat. If you never chat in a channel, my small little community here is super sweet, except for Zach, but he's actually really nice, but he's scary. I'm just gonna look and see if I know how to do a poll. Okay, so it's right there. All right, so let's go to content. I wonder if it's in content. Do you guys mind if I play with this for 1 second? Just want to know how you do a poll. Never done one. Let's see. All right, who knows how? Bayhaba Beauty, have you done one? Anyone in the chat know how? I mean, I could Google it, but I don't want to. I'm in my YouTube studio. It's funny because I walked Jess through it, but at the time I couldn't do it, so I didn't know how she was doing. Oh, maybe it's community. Mhm. No, it must be content. Live now. Edit. Actions. Delete. Oh my gosh, I almost deleted you guys. I can edit. There's supposed to be like a little button. Community. Dashboard. All right, let me go back to the chat and see how you guys telling me what to do. Oh, community tab. Bayhaba Beauty knows. Okay. We're going to do this together. So I'm in the community tab. I don't see it. Mentions, viewer posts, comments in community tag. All right, I'm not going to do it now. I don't really have a poll to make. Let me scroll down and see. I would think it would be in content. Zach, do you know how to do it? Oh, let me go back to my comments. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Community tag. Oh, it's Kristen. I didn't know you were in Rhode Island. Select create post. Okay, wait a minute. Grammy's got it over here. Let's see. In your dashboard? Okay, well, I'm not figuring it out. So I'm just gonna, you guys don't want to watch me do this. So navigate to your community tab. Yeah, I'm on my desktop. Select create a post. Community tab, create a post. That's what I thought it would be. All right. You guys know I can't let this go. So when you go to community tab, view a post. What's a podcast? No. You know I'll keep going back to this until I get it. So I'm just going to stop. And create post. Community tab, create post. Maybe I'm not supposed to be in studio. I'm in studio. Let me scroll all the way down and see. In community tabs, there's view a post, mentions. I don't see create a post. Okay. So you are click plus symbol top right. No, not community tab. Okay, hold on. Get out of community tab. Plus symbol top right. Oh, that says chat with a content creator. Hold on. Oh, that's neat. I didn't even know that was there. Okay. You guys, I hate to let this go, but I'm going to have to. Live. Details. You would think it would be an edit. Okay, I've spent way too much time on this. Okay. Okay, different on live. Here's another one. You guys are great. Click the plus add button at the bottom of the chat window. Oh, really? Just this chat window over here? Oh, I wonder if I'm even big enough. Can you? Oh, wait a minute. Huh. Hold on. Add button at the bottom of the chat window. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I wonder if I can do it. Maybe I'm too small. You Guys are helping me. It's so cute. Okay, here we go. To create a poll during a YouTube live stream, open a chat window. Click. Oh, right here. Okay, here. Click. I'm in it. It's open. Oh, but I have to do it from my YouTube channel. Hold on. Is that what I have to do? I'm not in there. Okay, let's go to comments. Hold on. I'm in. I think I'm getting close. It feels like I'm getting close. I'm in. I'm on my YouTube. Here it is. Do I want to click on that? I feel like it's going to screw up my stream. Okay. Okay, I'm going to stop. I know people are Googling it. You're so sweet. You know, I wonder if I'm not big enough, though. Do you have to have do you have to be monetized maybe to do a poll? That just occurred to me. I'm going to do something I never do. Oh, do it from your phone. I hate giving up. Are you guys getting bored with this? Because I don't know. I can just keep doing this. I hate giving up. Let me look I'm sweating. Can you see me? I'm working up a sweat. I'm gonna shut off my spotlight for a minute. I'm like all sweaty. I'm like, I can do this. Let me open up my window. Okay, hold on. Do you guys know when you're a technical person, you can't let things go? You go, okay, let's figure this out. Okay, here we go. I'm in the chat. I'm opening it up. You know what? I bet I can't do it. I bet I don't have enough. I bet I don't have enough people. So I'm in the chat and there's nothing there. Thank you, everyone. We'll do it again next time. I'll just keep trying. If you just joined, we were trying to figure out if I can do a poll, even though I don't even have a poll to do. I don't know. I just want to do it. Is that okay without the spotlight on? It was like making me hot while I was trying to figure this out. No, I do have enough people. Okay. All right. Well, you know what? Bay Harbor Beauty, you and I will practice that sometime if you're around this weekend. That would be fun. You know me. I always like to practice things. How's everyone? A woman of hot flash. You're not kidding me. I get this. So I think I bought a spotlight that's too big, and I put it on, and halfway through the show, I'm like, red. And especially when I'm on the spot like that, trying to figure something out. I like to nail everything from a technical perspective. So I want to know how to do that poll. I'll be secretly looking to do it the entire time that we're watching this video that we're going to watch. Okay. So let's talk about the Epstein files. And I don't want to, but we have to. We have to talk about them because and I don't even know where to start. It's funny, when we watched the Epstein files from the first that I did last week, I was literally tongue-tied. And I don't usually get tongue-tied. I'm used to public speaking. I can talk about anything. This is making me cringe. I don't know where to go with this. And if it's not bad enough, the SA of the young children, women, if that's not bad enough, and it is horrific. The things that I'm uncovering, and I don't know how much everyone knows about, and I'm not going to talk about the other stuff right now. We started with the background of Epstein for the past 30 years, maybe 27 years. I'm going to follow up with Amanda because I trust her, and she's an attorney. I like people who have vetted. I talked about there's a hacker community that is downloading the files from the DOJ, and they're putting them into MPV file for video form, and a couple of things that they've shared with me. And I haven't vetted this, so I'm not sharing the details. It'll come out. This is not going away. This is coming out. They shared that the DOJ shared less than half of what they were supposed to share with everyone because they didn't think everyone would look into them. And once everyone started really drilling in and clicking on the links and clicking on the downloading images and then embedded in an image is another link, they didn't realize what they were starting, and they started to pull back some of the information that they already put out there. So if you had seen a video, XYZ, it could be gone today. And the hacker community is trying to get answers on it, as I'm sure every other journalist that's looking into this, every other whoever you are, obviously, hopefully, it's designed for Congress to look at it. Hopefully, everyone is looking at it. My personal feeling is this isn't even a current administration issue. This goes back 20 years. What dawned on me, and maybe I'm just slow to the game here. What dawned on me is the people in power today aren't just there to cover up what's going on with this. They're actually there because of the vast criminal activity that surrounds the Epstein files. I don't think I was aware of that. I wasn't aware of how deep it stretched, and it's shocking to me. It's just shocking to me. It's a vast criminal enterprise, and I think I mentioned it before. It doesn't matter what political party you're in. It is a top, powerful handful of politicians, criminals, and businessmen that I can see. And what you're talking about here is, what I'm really concerned about is the intelligence service piece of this, and that we'll talk about how Prince Andrew was arrested, which is really interesting, by the way. So we're gonna listen to Amanda's second part of the interview. I want to give the voice of the victims, a platform. So I want to focus on that. But I found it interesting that when I did find the whole thing interesting that you know Prince Andrews was arrested. I mean, the royalties, man, the UK, they're not messing around. First, I knew when they stripped him of his, um, you know, of his title last October, like they never do that. But they actually haven't arrested anyone since the 1600s. So that's incredible. And it wasn't even about the sexual behavior. They arrested him for sharing non-public information. And that's what I'm all about. I'm all about the information part of this. The intellectual data is so powerful to people. Imagine the information that he gave to Epstein and everyone connected with Epstein, and it was trade information. So that information is so powerful, and it set the course of action that not just that there's going to be layers and layers and layers of people who traded intellectual information, and I want to find out who, what, where, when, and how. I The other thing that we have to pay attention to is, and this will seem political, but it's not political, but I am concerned of the connections that Epstein has. And, if you go back and look, for example, at Steve Bannon, he was so tightly connected with Epstein. There's actual emails, there's actual money involvement, close ties. And then he also was so instrumental in getting Trump elected in 2016. But I'm not saying this is just a current administration issue. It goes back 20 years. We have people in high power because of the maze and that is the Epstein vast criminal enterprise. And you're talking the intelligence agency, you're talking the circle, the federal circle, business circle. It's just political circle. They're all involved, and it's really scary. I did do a search. I wanted to see before we get to Amanda. What did I think we should start keeping track of people who resigned as a result of their acquaintances with Epstein. Okay, so we have the Hyatt Hotel executive chairman, Thomas Pritzker. We have Kathy Rummeler, who was the chief legal officer at Goldman Sachs. We have Brad Karp, who was chairman of the law firm, Paul Weiss. We've got the Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, who's the CEO of DP World. Mona Juul resigned as Norway's ambassador. We have Miroslav Lajčák resigned as the national security advisor to Slovakia's prime minister. We have the Dean Kamen, the board member of Beta Technologies. So That's just in the past, like, couple of months. I'm gonna keep track of I'm very interested in who is resigning. I don't think every single person who is connected to Epstein necessarily is evil unless they were connected to him after his indictment, then you are evil because you knew about it. But they can feign they were talking to him about technology or investments if it was prior to that indictment, unless there's emails and files and videos of you. So I'm really, really, really curious of the connections and the different framework. But until I can cross-reference the files or find someone that I trust that cross-referenced them, we're going to keep a good portion of what I discovered. But it's horrific. It's bone chilling. It's disgusting. And I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention or if this is just finally becoming public now. Because I know that it's salacious, right? So Trump, I think, took advantage of that to get elected. He was like, I'm going to be transparent. That's drama. People like drama. We know that. So people were interested in Trump's going to be transparent. And then he got elected and he said, that's a dead deal. Epstein's, oh, that's the other thing. Do you know like 40% of the people think Epstein's alive? I didn't know that. I think someone had said it in my chat, but I didn't even know that was an actual consideration that because of the video, and that's just me sharing a conspiracy theorist. I mean, I have no idea if that theory is accurate or not, but I thought they had his body. Like, if you have his body, isn't he? I don't know. So it's all really gross and icky. And I have a hard time talking about it, to be honest with you, but I think it's a conversation that we have to keep front and center. And I don't know the best people to have those conversations, except that I will tell you, I shared that Amanda Doyle is, hold on, let me tell you who Amanda is. So Amanda's on the podcast with her sister, Glennon Doyle, and Abby Wambach is Glennon's wife. But for this particular series, they're relying on Amanda's background to to lead this conversation. I don't think I think they're just in the room, but they don't say anything. Because she was the vice president and general counsel of a nonprofit for Together Rising. She also worked at a major law firm as a legal fellow in international justice mission, where she helped secure rights for women and children accountable for children victims of sexual violence in Rwanda. So she's someone that I trust in this area. And she had an opportunity to interview the lawyer for the 200 survivors. And I only listened to half of it. Again, it's like, I guess it's an hour and 20 minutes, and she talks pretty fast, so I can't really speed it up. So if we find that it's repetitive at all or not interesting, we don't have to listen to the whole thing, but I do want to listen to it. So I am going to tee that up. It's the same podcast. It's going to be a podcast, so it's not going to be, you can't see anything, but I'm going to start it. Hold on, I have to tee it up over here. And then, you know me, I'm going to go look and see. Let me see. How do I want this show? Do I want it like that? Yeah, that's fine. Okay, we're going to pick it up with Amanda talking to Brad Edwards, who again represented 200 of the Epstein survivors. I'm going to go back and read the chat now because I wasn't paying attention.
Hi, everybody. This is Amanda, and this is the second episode in my Epstein series. I am honored today to be talking with Brad Edwards, who has fiercely and fearlessly represented 200 Epstein survivors for almost 2 decades, and is the attorney who exposed the prosecution's illegal conspiracy to shield Epstein from facing justice. In this powerful conversation, in which Brad shares details he has never shared before, we walk through the incredible.
I'm going to stop this often and talk. I've moved my microphone. It's in the friggin' way. I'm going to have to redo the command center here. Hippie chick, you should come on. We should talk. I'm trying to find people that can cross-reference documents that I've seen with what they've seen. And I'm not good at this. This is my first attempt and I'm overwhelmed. So if you ever want to chit chat, send me an email. I'm going to drop my email in the link there. because I would love to just I don't know how to have this conversation, honestly, and I'm learning about it, so I thought while I'm learning, I'll learn with you guys as well.
Incredible courage and resilience of the survivors, the secret immunity deal between the federal prosecutors and Epstein, and the government cover up. How the DOJ seems to be intentionally re victimizing survivors in the way they are releasing the Epstein files. How Brad secretly worked with the Southern District of New York to finally arrest Epstein in 2019, and what the path forward for accountability is now that the government has closed the door on further investigations and prosecutions. If you have not yet listened to the first episode in this series, The Epstein Files Explained, Everything You Need to Know, I recommend you pause this and start there. It's the episode right before this one in the We Can Do Hard Things feed, and there is a link to it in this show's show notes. In that show, I walk through in a clear chronological way 30 years of facts, history, and reporting on the Epstein case to understand how we got to where. To Kill a Mockingbird is one of my favorite books.
Me too.
And I think it's a big part of why I wanted to be a lawyer. It's a story about a brilliant, heroic attorney and his deeply dignified, courageous client who both risk everything to try to extract justice from a system loyal only to power. In the book, Harper Lee writes, "Real courage is when you know you're licked before you begin, but you begin anyway and see it through no matter what." When you know you're licked before you begin, but you begin anyway and see it through no matter what. I believe that is the truth about courage, which is why I believe some of the most courageous people walking the planet today are the intrepid survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and their steadfast advocates who have for decades risked everything to extract justice from a system loyal only to power. For 18 years, Brad Edwards has represented now more than 200 survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, including a case that finally exposed that prosecutors were working for Epstein and against victims, securing the judge's finding that federal prosecutors and Epstein engaged in coordinated secret action to knowingly deprive Epstein survivors of their rights, and in cases securing survivors hundreds of millions of dollars in restitution. He was by his client's side the first time Epstein survivors, even 20 years after the crimes, had the opportunity to have their voices heard by a court of law. But justice has never been served. The survivors are not done fighting. He and his brilliant law partner, Brittany Henderson, are not done fighting. And we Americans who are just starting to understand not only the depravity of Jeffrey Epstein, but the depravity of the justice system that relentlessly protected the rich, powerful predator and ruthlessly abandoned the countless vulnerable girls, are not done fighting. Something is changing in the air. We have finally had enough. We are going to fight with these survivors, and we are going to see it through no matter what. Brad, thank you for being with us here today. I know you are not able to have time for this and you're making time for it. So it means a lot to us. Thank you.
I think it's important and I appreciate what you do and thanks for having me.
Your first involvement in this case was 18 years ago when survivor Courtney Wild comes to you in May 2008. I want to situate folks where we are in the timeline of the case at that point. When you meet Courtney, the Florida State prosecution of Epstein under State Attorney Barry Krischer has already caved to the Epstein pressure and influence. That's in 2006, returning an indictment of only one count of solicitation of prostitution. No indictments related to sex crimes against minors, which would have allowed Jeffrey Epstein to simply do an intervention program and serve no jail time at all. This was despite the fact that two absolute heroic giants, Detective Joe Ricari and Chief of Police Michael Reeder, had gathered for the state reports from 40 underage victims of Jeffrey Epstein and strong evidence from their investigation and their search of his home on Palm Beach Island. We talk about all of this in depth on the first episode in the series, so listen to that. But Chief Reeder is so convinced that something nefarious is going on that in July 2006, he takes the very unusual step of pressuring the FBI to open a federal investigation to try to get justice for survivors. In 2007, all seems to be going well. The FBI and the DOJ are working the case, talking to all the victims, finding new survivors. FBI agent Nesbitt Kirkendall is working her ass off to get all the evidence. They have 35 to 40 survivors who were minors when they were assaulted or trafficked who are willing to give testimony, including being transported across state lines. We know now that by May 2007, Assistant U.S. Attorney Marie Villafana is all in and has drafted a 53-page indictment with an 82-page prosecution memo prepared. She is also wanting to open a money laundering investigation. She was prepared to issue subpoenas on that, going all the way back to 2003 for every financial transaction conducted by Epstein and his 6 businesses. It appears to be an open and shut case that would have put Epstein away for the rest of his life, even if he was only convicted of just 1 count. It seems to everyone paying attention that justice is about to happen. So Courtney Wild, she comes to you in May 2008. She's been questioned by the FBI's investigation, and she's scared of getting in trouble with the FBI. She's even more scared of Epstein. I love Courtney Wild.
Me too.
I know you do. I don't know her, but I love her.
She's a badass.
I was hoping you could tell us just a little about her, not about what Epstein did to her, but her as a person.
Yeah, I mean, what I loved about her story when she came into my office was that it was just so pure. I mean, this is somebody who grew up with irresponsible parents, to say the least, but kind of against all odds. She's 13, 14 years old. She's a straight A student, and really no parental guidance. To the point that there were times where she had to stay at her school overnight so that she could make it there the next day because her parents weren't going to get her there. But she's not only a straight A student, she's a cheerleader, she's in the band. I mean, she's just doing everything right.
First trumpet in the band.
Yeah,
she's killing it. Yeah.
Killing it, you know? And so when she came to me, like skip all of the stuff in between for now, but when she came to me, it was so pure that she says, hey, look, I'm a part of this investigation. And here was my life before. It got totally derailed. I'm no longer in high school. I didn't graduate. You know, this guy was making me come to his house all the time and do all these terrible things. And I'm scared of him. And the government tells me they're going to protect me. And I have this letter. And I contacted the government, but this letter was given to me saying, be patient. There's an ongoing federal investigation. It was sent to me in January of 2008. Since then, I've been trying to get a hold of prosecutors. Nobody will talk to me. Can you just find out what's going on? Because I want to know, when is this guy going to jail so that I can get my life back in order? And so since then, you know, obviously now I've become very close with her over 18 years, and I've seen the ups and downs, and I've seen the way that her life was totally derailed. And it just doesn't matter. Like, this girl has been thrown down a million times and will always get up ready to fight. And without her, without Courtney Wild, nobody would know anything. Yes, I took on a case against the government pro bono, and she just cared about the right thing happening and could not even fathom that because this guy was rich or powerful, the system worked a different way for him. And I agree. I mean, that just shouldn't ever happen. So if you're all in, I'm all in. And she's been like that, and she still is. I mean, we're in close contact with her all the time. She finally has, I think she's at peace knowing that she carried a lot of the case for a long time. She's a fantastic person.
Her story is really illustrative of the way that Jeffrey Epstein's crimes just derailed people's lives. She's 14 when she is introduced to Jeffrey Epstein. At that point, she's basically effectively unhoused. She's crashing with her friends because she does not have any support. She needs money to take care of herself.
For basic life needs.
Basic life needs.
Yeah.
Does not have a place to live and does not have money for food. So she's 14. A friend at school says that she can come with her and give a man a massage for $200. And this is money that she needs. It will go a long way to taking care of herself. Instead, she is assaulted by him, and she is tangled in this web for 3 to 4 years. Then, you know, she starts self-medicating. She's actually imprisoned. She served triple the time that Jeffrey Epstein ever served for drug-related offenses related to her self-medicating from it. And she comes out and is like, let's go. And she hasn't stopped. Please tell her on behalf of all of us, thank you for what she has done.
I will. And you've done your homework. You couldn't have said it any more succinct or better than that. Everything you said is right on the money.
So she comes to you, she has this letter. Your take is nothing to worry about here. This is all good news. This guy's going away forever. 18 years later, you're still doing it. You and your private investigator start digging in. What do you learn about the case very quickly?
within days of meeting with Courtney, I had already gone, and I understood the operation, that it was essentially bring girls in under some false pretense that it would be a massage for a high school girl to give. She gets $200. And then there's kind of two options. Every time you come back to me, you get $200. And every friend that you bring me, I will pay you basically a finder's fee. And so he started to run what it was essentially a spider web of recruitment of victims recruiting other victims. And I understood that many of the victims, including Courtney, got to the point where the abuse was so bad that one of the ways to ensure she wouldn't be personally abused was to bring one of her also needy friends. And these are also other people who kind of need the life's essentials. I mean, this is not, spending money at the mall. When she kind of explains this and I start meeting other victims and realizing, okay, this is what he did and the stories are all the same and they have documents proving when they went there, how they got the money, et cetera. I said, this is the easiest case that I've ever seen. I mean, I was a prosecutor. I'm going to call the prosecutor and I'm sure, consistent with the letter that you just received from the FBI saying, be patient, it's a federal investigation. She's going to tell me that, yes, he's going to prison for life and then some, When I called Marie Villafana, it was very clear to me from the beginning that she not only wanted to prosecute him, she believed very strongly in the case, agreed with everything that I said, but that there were things that she couldn't tell me and that she was restricted from telling me, to the point that she even came to my office personally. And I really thought, I'm going to call her and say, hey, this is what's happening. And she's going to say, no, don't worry about it. At the end of it, she said, hey, there are things happening that I just can't tell you. And I said, that shouldn't happen. That makes no sense. I mean, victims have rights, at least the right to know what's going on. And she said, I don't disagree with you. And so that's what led to me kind of trying to figure out what can be done on an emergency basis and filing the case against the government for Courtney.
So to situate this, tell everyone what happens June 30th, 2008. So on the day that unannounced, no media, Jeffrey Epstein walks into court. So again, the FBI has the case. They're telling everybody, including the victims, that they're actively working on the case. They have all of this evidence. And then June 30th, 2008, what happens that day?
So June 29th, 2008, I got a call from Marie Villafana saying Jeffrey he's pleading guilty tomorrow in state court to state offenses. And I said, okay, well, your case is a federal case. So the federal case is still ongoing. And she said, can't talk about that. I said, that's weird. I was out of town at the time. So I sent an associate to the hearing who reported back on June 30th, Epstein shows up to court. He pled guilty to solicitation of prostitution and procurement of a minor for prostitution, 2 felonies. And I said, well, what about the federal offenses? And he said, unclear what happened there. So I kept trying to get a hold of Marie and saying, hey, what happened with the federal offenses? She just wouldn't tell me. She couldn't tell me. She told me she couldn't tell me. But there was an envelope attached to the plea agreement, which I said as a prosecutor, this makes no sense. I've never seen something like this. So fast forward, I think it was July 5th or 6th. So a few days later, after trying to get an answer to what's happening with the federal investigation and getting nowhere, I filed a claim, Jane Doe versus United States of America, went to the courthouse and said, this is an emergency. We need to get before the judge. And the crux of the pleading was, just in layman's terms, something is going on that is definitely improper, probably illegal. The government's involved. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm telling you what happened. He pled guilty to these charges in state court, but it was a federal investigation that I have these letters saying the federal investigation is still going on. The prosecutors won't talk to me. They won't talk to the victims. I think that there is a secret deal in the works where the prosecutors are now secretly negotiating with Jeffrey Epstein. So that's what I want, a hearing immediately. And so we got a hearing within 4 days. And it was at that hearing where I was in court with Courtney Wild, who, as you said, was 14 when she was brought to Jeffrey Epstein's house. Another victim by that point who had joined the litigation, who was 13 when she was brought to Jeffrey Epstein's house. For the first time, the prosecutors stand up and say, essentially, Mr. Edwards is wrong about one thing. We're not secretly negotiating a deal with Mr. Epstein. We secretly negotiated a deal with Jeffrey Epstein many, many months ago. In fact, the timeline really is in September of 2007, the federal government gave Jeffrey Epstein immunity through a non-prosecution agreement. And as part of that agreement, Jeffrey Epstein would plead guilty to state offenses and go to state jail. And between the time where they worked out the immunity agreement in September of 2007 and the time of the guilty plea in state court, June 2008, in order to make sure victims didn't complain about that, the federal government just simply told the victims flat out in black and white, the investigation's still ongoing. So it was blatantly, intentionally misleading the victims so that they could work out a deal in favor of Jeffrey Epstein. And then, I don't know if you've seen the correspondence, but they're literally corresponding. Basically, what does Jeffrey Epstein want? What punishment will he take? What crimes does he want to?
Isn't that hard to hear? So first of all, 13 and 14. Do we know how young that is? I mean, they're babies. I mean, they're babies when they're 18 and 19. Hey, T-Bone, we're into part 2 of what we went through. Was it last week? I don't even remember. Last week it was a week ago. Was it last Friday, I think, or last Saturday? I'm trying to get my arms around how they could make a deal. It's almost like the victims are the ones that are on trial for being poor, being, not well cared for, being from a part of town where they weren't supervised. It feels like it feels like the victims are being victimized again. And they're asking Jeffrey what he wants. And they cut him a deal, saying that he went after a 17-year-old prostitute, which means for soliciting a prostitute, they're not prostitutes. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead because I already listened to part of this, so I'll shut up and go on. It's hard for me. I have to stop because I have to just digest it in pieces.
A plea to, it was a conspiracy on paper, indefensible between the government and Jeffrey Epstein against the victims. There's no other way to categorize it.
I just want to make sure people really hear exactly what you're saying because the insanity of it is tremendous. You get a call the night before. The next morning, he's in court for a matter of minutes. What has happened in the court is that he pleads guilty to 2 state counts. So we have a 53-page federal indictment ready to be filed. And instead, 2 counts, neither of which involve sex with a minor, because there is solicitation of prostitution, doesn't mention a minor, and procurement of a person under 18 for prostitution, which does not involve having sex with a minor. So those are the 2 charges that are against him. The deal also includes 18 months in county jail. That is what his sentence is going to be, not prison, for which he will get 12 hours a day of work release, 6 days a week. So he essentially just sleeps in the jail. And then what you're talking about right now, this is the part, I don't think I've ever heard of anything like this. In exchange for, there's no exchange. What he's pleading to is so exceptionally lenient that it's absurd. He gets from the federal government a non-prosecution agreement, which basically means we agree to never charge you for anything under the federal law of that jurisdiction. So he doesn't have to admit to any federal crimes. He gets this non-prosecution agreement. It also covers non-prosecution for any of his co-conspirators, whether the federal government knows about them or doesn't know about them.
The way that you just described that already sounds absurd, and it's not even close to as bad as it really was, because the effects of the way that the federal government and Jeffrey Epstein orchestrated that type of plea by pleading to 2 counts involving prostitution, which is absolute insanity when you're talking about 13 and 14-year-old high school children who were going over there under false pretenses and then being raped. It allowed then Jeffrey Epstein and his defense team to have cover categorizing everybody as prostitutes, labeling everybody as prostitutes, a label that to some degree is still being attached to them by some and maybe always will, because it's not only been, it's one thing when a criminal defendant says it, but it's been endorsed by the US government as they're prostitutes. So it's a label you can't get rid of. And the last part, where not only was Jeffrey Epstein receiving immunity, but co-conspirators were receiving immunity, both named, and there were 4 people named, and unnamed. Those people, and we just learned this in the last 2 years, those co-conspirators that were named, they did not know that they were being named. So when we went to talk to them and said, in the civil cases, hey, will you flip on Jeffrey Epstein? Will you tell us what happened? They said, we can't, because we just learned we were thrown into this agreement without us knowing about it. The prosecutors never talked to us. They never tried to talk to us. We wanted to talk to them. They would not talk to us so that we could help them out with their prosecution. But now, if we help you, we lose immunity and the prosecutors will prosecute us. So the prosecutors were able to silence the best witnesses against Jeffrey Epstein by letting Jeffrey Epstein label them as co-conspirators and attaching their immunity to his behavior.
Wait, holy shit. I've never heard. Wait, why would they have lost their immunity by testifying against him? Isn't immunity something you can either exercise or not? It's not a binding contract.
So here's how it worked. I mean, this is so crazy, but if you go back and look at the non-prosecution agreement, Jeffrey Epstein has 18 months in jail, followed by house arrest.
Right.
And if he violates during that time, he loses his immunity deal. Well, during that time, we were going to the alleged co-conspirators and saying, tell us what you know. Their attorneys are calling saying, we can't do that. Imagine we tell you what we know. It causes him to violate his agreement by reacting to it in some way. They then lose their immunity, and certain things that they did, even though they were under his coercive instruction, are things that could be prosecuted. And we have prosecutors who were intentionally only trying to protect Jeffrey Epstein. So if we do something to disrupt that agreement, they are going to come after us because Jeffrey Epstein's going to come after us. And we heard that from all of them.
Right, of course.
And I think that it's pretty reasonable to think when the government is essentially working for the bad guy, you can't say anything against the bad guy.
And by the way, every bit of what we're talking about, none of this is conjecture. These are findings of fact by a federal court. There's plenty in this case that is conspiracy theory. Plenty of those myriad theories that I personally believe in the fullness of time will be found to be correct. We are not talking about any of those today. We are talking about findings of fact that have been made by courts and things that have been reported.
Indisputable facts.
Indisputable facts.
And that's why I wanted to focus on this when I was looking at the files, when I'm looking through different podcasts that I'm researching it. I want to stick with the facts. There's a lot more to come. And I do believe that this is bigger than Watergate and that there are a lot of heads that are going to roll, and it's not going to matter what political party you're on. And Epstein's just one piece of it. But there is a framework in place that allowed this to happen. And I'm shocked by it. And I'm so sad that victims, 13, 14-year-olds were re-victimized, and they still are to this day. It's just, that's the part that's so upsetting to me. And he was protected, and the powerful businessmen were protected, and the exchange of information and the exchange of intelligence just helped, again, build the framework that led up to this. And I know in the last Epstein overview that Amanda did, she talked about how he was talking to people right before he was killed. Like he was starting to, make a deal. And that's conspiracy theory. And we're not going to go down that road. We're going to stick with facts, which I appreciate. I'm a facts person.
All we're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. The other thing about the non-prosecution agreement is that no judge ever saw it. They didn't enter it before a judge to say, hey, judge, we want you to review and approve this agreement. It was a side contract made for the benefit of Epstein by some people in the Department of Justice that was never seen by anyone other than the folks who conspired with Epstein and Epstein's team.
That's correct. Marie Villafana really wanted to prosecute Jeffrey Epstein. Her superiors, going all the way up to Alex Acosta, were buddying up with Jeffrey Epstein's defense team, they decided to end the case with this immunity deal. And they took very concerted efforts to make sure, just to add on to your point, to make sure that no judge saw this. And there are specific emails where they talk about, we want to make sure that the judge doesn't understand all of the crimes that we could have prosecuted him for, that he doesn't understand the facts of this. So this needs to be a private agreement. They even talked about moving the case for certain aspects of it to a different location so that the press wouldn't pick up on it.
They offered to file and said, would you like us to file this in Miami? Because Palm Beach knows a little too much about this case. So if we show up there might be press coverage. They had a no press policy where they would write back and forth to decide what would be less obvious.
Yeah, and not to get too in the weeds about that, but that is a different provision we haven't talked about yet, where Jeffrey Epstein wanted to make sure that civil lawsuits didn't expose this deal. So the federal government said, okay, here are the 40 underage minors that we identified so far. Why don't we get them the same attorney under strict instructions that they settle all of these cases for the bare minimum under a restitution related statute, so that all of your problems are wrapped up in one and nobody ever hears about this, because there are three categories of people that could disrupt this secret deal that we have here. It's a judge, it's the victim, and it's the press. So let's work together to make sure nobody can ever uncover this and anybody ever knows about it, because if they do, they're going to see that the federal government has conspired with probably one of the most notorious and worst sex offenders that's ever lived and ever been able to kind of exist and run a sex trafficking operation.
So this
that was
is
their
the
plan.
$10 to $20 million, because that's another point in the non-prosecution, which appears to be an overture to victims, but is actually a way of silencing them, where they say, oh, also, Jeffrey, in addition to the eventual 13 months, you'll spend 12 hours out of jail and sleeping in jail, you will put $10 to $20 million in a restitution fund, $10 to $20 million, pennies of his money. And then we will have a lawyer that will negotiate and divvy out those funds to these people. But when they receive the funds, they will have to sign agreements that say, we will never talk about this again.
Yes, but worse than that, Jeffrey Epstein rejected that part of the deal. And the ultimate deal was that each of the victims would be paid $50,000. That's the ultimate deal that they agreed on. So it actually wasn't the $10 to $20 million put into the trust. He rejected that. That never happened. It was they would each get paid $50,000. The only reason that whole plan got disrupted is we filed the case against the government, exposed this deal, and then just started suing him one after the other. Otherwise, that is the way that the government and the Epstein, what you just described, would have resolved it, and nobody would have heard anything.
Okay, so the survivors of Epstein find out that he has done this plea deal on the news, or if they're your client, you had found out the night before. So they find out from you that tomorrow this case is going away. You later find out that it is actually months before he makes the plea deal is when the federal government has actually made their non-prosecution agreement with him. So he, for 7 months, knows he's never going to face federal charges before he even says, yeah, sure, I'll plead to that prostitution thing. You immediately, upon hearing that he has pled to these state, I can't even call them charges. I mean, you immediately go file a Crime Victims' Rights Act claim for Courtney Wild. And you
It's snowing here. It just started snowing. T-Bone, so the state was all in because the police chief and the investigator did a phenomenal job, and they brought it to their attorney general, who was all in. She was stopped at the federal level, who said, they don't have a recording of it, but when you listen to how it all unfolded, it was the federal government that took over, and the state went from, this is absolutely a great case, this is open and shut, we're going to have no issue prosecuting him, to all of a sudden there's a behind the door, deal made that they don't even make the state aware of, or at least the prosecutor in the case aware of. That's how I'm hearing it. I'm still relatively new. I can't stop fidgeting either. It's just, this is horrible.
You say, this is some horseshit, what you described before. What is going on here? The judge granted you summary judgment motion and said, yeah, this was a collusion. It was a coordinated effort. The U.S. Department of Justice acted in the interests of Epstein and against the interests and rights of the survivors.
I mean, I essentially made the case up, right? Like if you look at victims' rights law, there's none. And I looked at the statute and said, okay, they're violating their rights. I've made up the lawsuit in terms of title and everything, called it an emergency, got an emergency hearing, explained the situation, and the judge learned it the first time too. Brad, you're wrong. They're not secretly working out a deal. They just told you they secretly worked out a deal. So is there anything more to talk about? And I said, well, the first thing we want to see the non-prosecution agreement, which we fought both the government and Epstein over that. They didn't even want to show us this agreement.
Okay, this is an important piece. Can I stop you 1 second? Because the other part, right, with the press and all the ways that they have that the prosecution and Epstein's team has worked together to try to figure out what could be future problems for us. Let's together coordinate a plan to eliminate all of those. One big piece of this is, well, shit. We know that there's a 53-page indictment. We know there's an 82-page prosecution memo that walks through exactly why and how he should be prosecuted for all these crimes. We know there's all these police records. We got to make sure that no one ever sees those. And we also have to make damn well sure that no one ever sees that we conspired with him to make his sweetheart deal. So this is a big part of this. All of this is sealed. None of this is available to anyone.
The non-prosecution agreement itself was not available to anyone. The judge at that hearing that we just described that happened after, on July 11th, I think, of 2008, said, I agree. The government should have to turn over the non-prosecution agreement to the victims. And the government and Jeffrey Epstein fought us on that, and we won. So a few months later, we get the agreement, and we realize all of the different pieces that we've been talking about that were part of this cover up within the immunity agreement. And I said, okay, well, we're not done with this case. I want to know how deliberate the violation of the victim's rights were so that we can understand what the possible remedy is. Because I think that the remedy should be if a criminal defendant and the government conspire against the victims and they tell the victims actively, there is a case, be patient, don't come to us, don't bother us. And really, you've worked out a secret immunity agreement, then you have intentionally violated the rights under the act. And it's a contract, right? We talked about it as a contract. The contract should be invalid because there's a third party to this contract whose rights have been taken from them. So invalidate the contract and we'll just put them in prison later. And that was always the goal. The government and Epstein throughout this case from 2008 until 2019, 11 years of fighting this case, they worked lockstep with one another. It was us, and at times just me, fighting the government and Jeffrey Epstein on this nuanced and very novel legal theory, saying, give me evidence, give me documents. In fact, to get the emails exchanged between Jeffrey Epstein and the government, Epstein's team, and you would think there's 3 or 4, there's not. There's thousands of documents. We had to get an order from the judge, we won. Epstein and the government appealed it. We had to go to the appellate court and get the appellate court to say, under these circumstances, the victims should see it. That's the only reason the world can see now the conspiracy between the government and Epstein. And your last point about there being and we had it referenced in the documents that there was a 52-page indictment and an 82-page pros memo. The first time that I have seen those documents was last Friday in the document release. All these years, I've personally never even seen those documents because the government has refused to give them to us. So we've known that they exist. Still, the government fought us. Even after Jeffrey Epstein died, the government continued to fight us. But you're right, in 2018, the government ruled in our favor saying, yes, the victims' rights were violated, and it was our intention to get the remedy that we asked, rip up the agreement, and get him arrested. At the time in 2019, I was cooperating essentially undercover with the SDNY to get him arrested again in New York. And we all know that he died in jail. And so our case in Florida that we had been, pursuing to undo his immunity agreement there was deemed moot, because what's the point of undoing an agreement and prosecuting somebody who is dead? You can't do that. So
interesting, right? He dies, and now that lawsuit goes away. Good question about Alan Dershowitz. I think it should be noted that he was also allegedly charged by Virginia Roberts as abusing her when she was a minor. Never just an allegation, I guess I should say. Just want to mention that they are doing. I know he is doing Lord's work, and he is phenomenal.
That's the short version of a really, really long story.
Sorry for the commercials. We're going to go right through them.
Really methodically in detail about who the
and support our show by saying you heard about
difference between the prosecution and the defense to kind of shed light. In our first
do hard things
episode, we go kind of really methodically in detail about who the lawyers were on each side, the connections between the prosecution and the defense to kind of shed light. But how and why do you believe that happened, that conspiracy happened? Do you have a theory of that, or are you at liberty to share why?
Like I told you before, I don't buy into conspiracy theories, but I've seen a lot of evidence. And I think that there's a couple things that happened here. One, he had a legal team that had influence not only in the legal world, but also made it pretty clear that anybody who agrees with Jeffrey Epstein gets promoted in life, and anybody who doesn't goes in the other direction. So Jeffrey Epstein hiring people that could make those types of things happen, and also were his friends and would carry water for Jeffrey Epstein, I think it made people in political positions, because I think we've all learned, right, that there are great prosecutors, there are line prosecutors like Marie Villafana. But above that, at the very top, those are political positions that are usually not even prosecutors. I mean, whether you were talking about Alex Acosta or Jay Clayton, I'm not putting them in the same spot, right? But they're political positions. They're not prosecutors. They're not people who've been in the trenches. Alex Acosta wanted to get ahead in life. So did some of the subordinates to him, but very high up in the office. And they did. The proof is in the pudding, so to speak, right? It's like they did all of this. They made this go away in the way that Jeffrey Epstein and his team wanted to. And, Alex Acosta was promoted to, a cabinet member in the first go round with President Trump. Others in line, whether it's Matt Menschel, he went to a big firm and got something out of it. Whereas Marie Villafana has just been stepped on from the time that she tried to prosecute him all the way through the very end. And I should say that when I was battling that case, I had a legal expert in victims' rights, Paul Cassell, who was a former federal judge. And the two of us would get information that, hey, look, this was done by Clinton, or it was done by some other politically powerful person. So we investigated that. And while that is not directly true, what the Epstein lawyers did do is communicate repeatedly to the U.S. Attorney's Office that they have powerful people that Jeffrey Epstein has associated with. And it wasn't only Clinton, it was other world leaders, other senators, people in power, federal judges that could help their career, and that this is going to be a career-defining moment for the prosecutors to go up or down. And Marie was really the only one that just wanted to do what was right. The rest of them were willing to hurt the victims as much as they could possibly be hurt if it could promote their career. That's really why it was done, which is sad. It's like this good old boys, you scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of bullshit.
And that's exactly what happened. Your victims' rights case is in the courts for 11 years before you get the ruling saying, yeah, you're right, it was a conspiracy. By that time, Acosta is appointed by Trump to be the Secretary of the Department of Labor. So now we're kind of fast forwarding 10 years.
By the way, as an aside that I've never told anybody, I got a call before he was appointed by somebody close to President Trump, who has later become somewhat of a friend, asking whether this was a good idea, whether this was going to blow up on President Trump. And I said, it's a terrible idea. It's definitely going to blow up on President Trump. And he did it anyway. So again, I've never said that, but that happened. And I don't know why the call was made, because I told him this is the worst idea that I can think of. And it was done anyway.
Well, that's really interesting because,
just to remind everyone, Alex Acosta was the federal prosecutor in Southern Florida, because I know there's a lot of names, and we did this last week, but all the prosecutors reported up to him. So that's what they're talking about. So Mary was the attorney general. She was trying to get it done, Mary or Marie. And then he said that she was going against everyone. So she suffered because of that. And Alex, who was the federal prosecutor, played ball, and he got appointed a big position in the Trump administration, because they're all scummy. It's not Democrats versus Republican. They're all scummy. Not all politicians, just the ones that are involved in this, I should clarify, in my opinion.
he is appointed in 2 years before your case is ruled on, right? So that means the non-prosecution agreement isn't even public at that point. That means that there is
No, it was public. So just
okay.
the timeline. The timeline, June 30th, 2008, Epstein pleas. July 11th, so 12 days later, we ask that we get the non-prosecution agreement, which we get like 2 months later.
Oh, it's just the actual saying of, yeah, you're right, there was a prolonged collusion between. Okay.
It took us 5 years to get the emails that were exchanged, because they fought us on that, which was the proof that it was a conspiracy. Because before that, they acted like, no, we didn't really talk. This was it's a regular old agreement. We just do these things. So you're right on everything else, though, but the timing.
So you get your ruling February 2019. During kind of that period of time preceding that, the indomitable Julie K. Brown has just blown.
This is when I start hearing about it in 2019. I don't know where the hell I was. I feel like so much happened before 2019 that I just wasn't following, wasn't aware of, didn't know anything about the other cases. Just didn't pay attention, I guess. And I have regrets for that. That's why I'm going to continue to just do what I can to advocate for the victims now.
Open with an investigative report. She started by saying, like, aren't people going to be talking about this Acosta thing? This is weird. And she does a huge series for the Miami Herald. Then things start going really fast. A few months after you get your ruling, the Southern District of New York charges come out. It's July of 2019. Jeffrey Epstein is returning from Paris, lands in a New Jersey airport, is arrested. The FBI raids his mansion in New York, and they charge him on sex trafficking of minors and conspiracy to commit sex trafficking. I didn't know you had been working with the Southern District of New York on that. This is just a story of being crushed by the system and having the audacity to hope that next time it'll come right. It is like that quote, like, keep going no matter what. Did you believe that this was the time that he was going to be brought to justice?
I knew that we were not going to quit until it happened. And I knew that early on. Just to tell you how it really went down, in 2009, because I would not quit on Jeffrey Epstein and he couldn't get me to go away, he sued me personally, which was the dumbest fucking move that he could have made, but really dumb.
It's the Discovery disaster. Like, good luck, sue me.
But he thought, this is the way that I'm finally going to get this guy off my back. But I thought, okay, like, if you're a fighter, you want to fight. Like, now we're in a real fight. So that, because he had a lot of lawyers on that case. And they took my deposition a bunch of times. They followed me. They tailed me with investigators, everything that they could do.
They followed your wife. They
yeah.
had your house under constant surveillance. This is another piece of this that is just a backdrop. There's so many levels. All of the survivors that were either trying to pursue justice, their houses were surveilled. They had private investigators shining lights into the bedrooms where they slept from their cars all night long. You had to move your own clients to other states and locations to protect them during this whole period. So this surveillance and intimidation is going on for years.
Harassing. He was harassing not only the victims, but the attorney. By the way, I love this guy, Brad Edwards, and he was doing all of this work for free, which is, to me, amazing. But why is it legal to harass victims? I thought it wasn't.
Yes. So it took me 3 years to get his case against me dismissed. So then I sued him for malicious prosecution. When I did that, it was us who worked with Julie Brown. Julie Brown said, "Hey, I want to investigate this." I go, "Good." So we started giving her the information. We were timing her story coming out at the end of 2018 with what was supposed to be my trial against Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein and I, by that point in time, because he thinks he can control everything, he said, "Let's just drop lawyers and let's start meeting." So he and I were meeting regularly at Starbucks, sitting across from each other.
No.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, at first he thought he could intimidate me, and it worked into him saying, "How much do I have to pay you to go away?" And I said, "It's not about that. It's about, you're going to have to make the most public apology and the most clear apology, admitting to all of your wrongdoing to me in open court." So that case ends with him making a very clear apology to me, saying everything he said about me is wrong. My relentless pursuit has held him accountable. He did these things, which nobody really picks up on, but he makes this public apology. But we time Julie Brown's story coming out with that. And at the same time, I'm communicating with the FBI saying, he's about to make this apology, listen to it, come to my office. Southern District of New York comes down. I said, "Look, let's start working a secret operation." The problem is Jeffrey Epstein has contacts in the government. He's going to learn about it. So I have to keep personally meeting with him and telling him I'm meeting with him over the Crime Victims' Rights Act case, because ongoing, he's worried that I'm trying to disrupt his immunity deal still. So as we're meeting, I'm able to tell the government, I know where Jeffrey Epstein is because I have a meeting with him here on this day, so that you know his whereabouts. You can then come meet with certain clients and we can start building a secret operation. So we would be at meetings at Starbucks, and Jeffrey Epstein, he was getting paranoid. He would look over his shoulder and say, "Who's that guy in the parking lot?" Thinking now I had him under surveillance. So I don't even know what you're talking about. But I was telling the government, you got to indict him soon, because he's starting to make me nervous. He's getting really, really scary, really antsy. So I remember when it was right after the 4th of July that he was coming back from Paris, and they arrested him. They knocked his door in at his New York townhouse. And then we started going to the hearings to make sure his bail was denied. Because I was telling the prosecutors, if he gets bail, he's dangerous all over again. So everything that can be done to keep him in jail, once you have him there, you have to keep him in a cage. Otherwise, the harm that he is going to inflict is going to be enormous on me, my family, on everybody.
Plus, he's gone. I mean, when they
So that's
ultimately,
that's how it happened.
Holy shit. Okay. So in part because of Courtney and Michelle's testimony to Judge Berman, he is denied bond. He is sent back to jail to await trial. This is the first time that's happened. Less than a month later, he is dead. The official inquest said suicide. We go over all of those things in the first episode. I want to know just how crushing was that to the survivors, and tell me a little bit about what it meant to them that Judge Berman insisted, when the Epstein lawyers came in and said, well, these charges need to be dismissed, this case is moot, insisted that each of the survivors that wanted to speak and tell their stories be able to do that.
I'm going to answer by saying I've never pursued one bit of this case for me. It was always only with the victims in mind. That's all I've cared about from the day one. But to answer your question and put it in perspective, when he was found dead and committed suicide, it was crushing to me. I mean, it felt like, oh my God, I've done everything I possibly can, put my life, everything on the line to protect these people who can't protect themselves. And I've told them, I promised them, I'm going to fight for them until this day happens. And then this happens. So I was crushed, which means whatever I felt was exponentially greater for the victims. So I'm telling you that for perspective. Like when I would have to call one victim after another and tell them what they're reading in the news is true, it was on the floor, can't handle it, one after another, after another, after another. So for Judge Berman to make a monumental kind of order that these people can, that these victims can come in and get a chance to actually speak in court was something that most judges don't have the compassion or time to do, but it meant a lot. Had he not done that, had he not allowed the victims to speak and share their stories and share what they wanted to say, you know, I think that it's pretty public that we've already lost at least 5 victims to suicide. It would have been more. It would have been more. That was cathartic, helpful in the healing process. It wasn't obviously the way that it should have ended, but had he not done that, the damage that we all know happened, it would have been beyond anybody's imagination. So we owe a lot to Judge Berman just for, you know, being a real person in addition to being a great judge.
I heard one of the survivors say that it was Judge Berman allowing her to speak was the first time in her life she had experienced a person in authority who treated her with respect and dignity.
How sad is that, right?
It is such a fucking low bar that being able to share your story to a court that will listen is a transformational moment.
And we're in the United States of America, and we're talking about a case that went on for over a decade, and this is the first person of authority that gives her that feeling is
in this case. I mean, the whole time she's talking to people, to FBI agents and investigators who have already made a deal on behalf of her abuser.
That's what I'm saying. It's so sad that that's even true, but it's true.
What is equally amazing is that even all of these crushing defeats, the survivors don't stop after that. They don't stop. They are pursuing civil cases this entire time with you. They are working just tirelessly with Kana and Massey on the Epstein Transparency Act. Even though this has plagued their entire lives, they want the world to know this information.
They want accountability.
They want accountability. They want accountability. The act says that all the documents, files, records, videos, and images related to the investigations and prosecutions need to be released. And tragically, once again, the DOJ has not only failed to follow the law, they have also done horrifying, irreparable harm to the survivors in this release. This is important because we're now up to now. All of this has been passed, but we're now up to now, and a lot of people learn.
Okay, take a deep breath if you're still with me. I want to say hi to the replay crew because the first Epstein file got over 700 views. So thank you for listening. If you come back for the second one, take a deep breath. I get really upset at this next part because I did listen to it. I jumped ahead because some of this, maybe I just got distracted because I missed some of it, but I know what's coming up and I'm appalled by this. I think you guys probably know as well.
Learned about the Epstein case at the same time that they learned about the Epstein files. These like infamous files. Tell us what they are, what happened with the release, and how yet again this has just been a re-victimization.
Yeah, just for brief context, I think that it started with President Trump running on a platform that if...
We just have about 20 minutes left. I know it is a heavy topic, Heather. especially this part, because this part is, up till October, right? So we're current. This is a current event review, which I can't believe this has been going on for over 20 years. If you stay till the end, I do have some wildlife photos, because last time I left, I felt, I didn't know where to go. I was tongue tied. So I planned it out where I'm like, okay, after this, we'll pivot a little bit to something a little lighthearted, because it's heavy.
If he's elected, he's going to release all the files. And then fast forward, and we hear last summer that there's been an about face and they're releasing no files, which I'll tell you, for the victims, most of them wanted to know what was in their file. What does the government have on them that can help them get closure? And they had been requesting it from the federal government all of 2025 and were denied receiving their own files. So that's what they really wanted.
This is such an important point. The survivors that have been at this case for over a decade, I can't imagine the exacting level of torture it has taken to relive their experiences, to local police, to federal authorities, going in front of Congress people to tell their stories. They do not have access this entire time to what the government has on them in the files and what has been found in the investigation of their particular claims.
Exactly. And they wanted it for them personally. They don't want the whole world to see their name and things like that associated with Jeffrey Epstein and the abuse that they endured, but they want their own files. They can't get it. Now that President Trump has said, I'm releasing everything, I'm releasing nothing, we knew that nobody's going to have this on either side of the aisle. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, everybody says, hey, this doesn't make any sense. I know that. So what can we do now? And not that we speak for every victim, but having represented 200 victims, it was very clear what everybody thought is the answer to this is release all of the files, redact all of the victims' names. For once, the victims should be protected in this process. So when we went to Washington, D.C. last summer and spoke for hours with the House Oversight Committee and explained what the case really is about, what should be in the files, if you really boil it down, it's like, now that we've talked, it's pretty obvious. His information was taken from his house in the 2008 case. And when he was arrested in 2019, the terabyte or whatever of information was taken from his computer. When his house was raided, there was other information that we had gathered in civil cases that the government had. There were witness statements, victim statements called 302s that were provided. And that was the basics of the investigation. Turn everything over, redact the victims' names. We were fought on that by the administration. The administration fought hard about agreeing to that process. And that's why there had to be this act that was drafted, the Epstein Transparency Act. The administration was actively telling Republican members of Congress, do not sign off on this. If you do, you are a traitor, or this is going to be considered an act of aggression against the administration. The same administration that said, we're going to release all the files. So it made no sense, although, between us, obviously it makes sense, right? That was the goal. I said right away to Ro Khanna and Tom Massey, in a way, you have to remember where you're signing into law an act where the foxes guard the hen house. The administration doesn't want.
That's what I said last time. I said the foxes guarding the hen house, and I had not heard him say that. But that's exactly what it feels like. And that's where the frustration comes in. But I'll tell you something, and we'll go back to this quickly. I have hope that other countries are not going to hide the information. They're going to demand it, and then we will be able to see everything through other countries. We're not going to see it probably through our own DOJ, as they've proven, but other countries are moving quickly, and they're not tolerating the same shenanigans. I'm hopeful.
The files to come out, that now there's a federal law mandating they come out. Isn't it possible that as pure retaliation, that there will be missed redactions and victims' names will come out? I even wrote a letter to Pam Bondi saying, I fear for this. could happen, and that one of us or somebody on our side should be involved in the redaction process. And I was told, come on. I mean, that would be childish for somebody to retaliate against victims. That's not going to happen.
So what you were saying is, isn't it possible that what will happen at the next step is what has happened at every single step so far? Is that at least possible, that the interests of the people who are powerful will be protected at the expense of the people who are vulnerable? And they're saying, well, you're a wild conspiracy theorist here.
Yeah, and I told him, it's not conspiracy. I've lived this case. I know what's going to happen next. There was a release of a fraction of documents. I think it was 20,000 documents, and there were missed redactions. I think that was in November. I don't know if I have the timeline perfect, but they missed redactions, and it was in November. And we immediately, when I say me, my law partner, Brittany Henderson, and I contact DOJ immediately. She's the best.
Badass.
She's really the best. We'll have a whole new podcast on that.
Yeah.
So we contact DOJ immediately and we say, hey, look, you missed these things, and I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. It's anybody can make mistakes. Mistakes happen by anybody. We know that, but here's how you missed them. So what we're going to do for you is we're going to help you compile a list of victims, all of them. You run some list by you, we'll run some by you, and we'll make sure that we have hundreds of victims so that you know who needs to be protected. They say, okay, we agree. When it comes out, these are going to be protected. There was then a rollout of some additional documents. You remember there were kind of 2 or 3 tranches before there's been this big tranche. We said, hey, you missed it again. This is easy though. This is a simple process. In cases like this, where we only represent crime victims, we have to redact all the time.
Yeah. This is very, very standard procedure.
A literal classroom of 5th graders can get this right? Like all the government's proven is they're not smarter than a 5th grader here.
Or they are.
Yeah, right. That's where I'm going with this, because I don't want anybody to think that what I'm going to say is unfair to them, and understand how fair we've been along the way. So another tranche comes out and we say, hey, look, you messed up again. This can't keep happening. Here's what you do. When you're getting ready to process them, you put it into the same system that you have up for everybody else to search. You search all the victims' names. If the result is a number greater than 0, you haven't finished your job yet. You redact, on your AI software, you hit redact on these.
How could they not know this? T-Bone, I like her voice. Of course, I have a very heavy New England accent, but I love her voice. I could listen to her all day. But how could they not get this part right? It had to have been intentional. And there's consequences to these women, especially these women that live in other countries where prostitution, as they're being labeled, means they'll be stoned to death in the streets. It's vicious and it's
names, and they're redacted before you publish it to the world. Okay, we got it. Last Friday, when they published the 3.5 million documents, there were more than 10,000, I want to say more than 20,000 missed redactions of victims. It's incomprehensible.
And we're not just talking about names. We are talking about addresses. We are talking about photographs, phone numbers, IDs, something that happens in cases where if you're prosecuting a case, you have to prepare a witness for cross-examination. And cross-examination, especially from ruthless Epstein people, is rough. They're going to go after everything. They went after in depositions, victims, how many abortions have you had? So you have to do an interview where the witness tells you everything about their life, their medications, their sexual history, their mental health, their everything in their lives. Some of those interviews of the survivors are in these documents.
Yeah, and they were released to the public. And so just so that everybody knows, because people don't really know this, within an hour of the release, we had already contacted top brass at DOJ saying, hey, look, there's so many missed redactions here. When I say so many, thousands and thousands and thousands, victims are going to be irreparably harmed. This is going to destroy their lives. They're going to be in danger. Some of them are in foreign countries where their culture is not such that they will protect them at all. They're going to be blasted in the media. They could be arrested. I mean, just for having anything to do with a sex offender, they can be arrested. They're in real danger.
Their bosses, their children, their own clients, everything.
pull the whole site down. That's the only thing you do. Pull the whole site down. We will help you with the redaction process. It'll take hours, if not hours, then a day, and you can have the whole site back up after you've properly redacted. They refused. They said, here's what you're going to have to do. You, which has been primarily Brittany Henderson and me, sending them emails and literally going on the site and dragging and dropping the individual documents to send to them. And if they received the document, they pull it down. But if we were to find that a victim had been exposed on 350 documents, and we said, here's 50 of them we pulled over, there's 300 more up there, they would pull those 50 down and leave the 300 up. No help whatsoever. The problem has been, now that it's been a week, the press has downloaded it. People have screenshotted it. It's all over Reddit.
You can never get that back.
You can never get it down. We have victims right now who had to escape their country, literally get on an airplane and escape their country. The press is at their door talking to their kids at their schools. We've had victims that have had to leave their children, multiple, with relatives so that they can check themselves into hospitals. We have victims who are suicidal right now. And this is not information that the government doesn't know. As it's happening in real time, the victims are telling the government this, and we are telling the government this. It was no mistake, because even if you wanted to say somebody is so incompetent that they made 20,000 errors at one time, when we told them the only remedy to this is pull it down and redact, and they don't, that is intentional.
Yes.
And when people are telling them, hey, this is going to be the consequence, and you do nothing to remedy it, knowing that within every hour the consequence continues to grow, you do nothing, it's intentional. I have no doubt in my mind that what I told Ro Khanna and Tom Massey when this law passed, Fox Guard in the hen house, when the administration doesn't want this bill to pass, there is going to be some revenge against those who helped it pass, which are the victims. You wanted this done so that the files could be out there, but the victims' names redacted. You're about to feel the impact of you wanting something that the administration didn't want, and they do. It's happening, it's real, and there's really nothing that can be done about it. Whether or not a lawsuit can be brought for the irreparable harm that has happened, and in real time, as we're speaking, is continuing to happen, we are investigating whether it can be done or whether the government has sovereign immunity from these intentionally harmful acts is still kind of a question, but it is the clearest case of a privacy violation by the government, both in terms of liability and damage that you can dream of. I wish 100 law firms hearing this would say, let's just band together and sue the government, because until you match their power, you're not going to be able to change things. But there is something very wrong with the culture that has developed over the last year. And again, like, not getting political at all. I don't care if Republican, Democrat, but there was a time in this country where at least the top people, the leaders, cared about other people, no matter what their political beliefs were. They didn't teach hate speech. You didn't call people Miss Piggy. You led by example, and that's just something that is so disheartening to me. And I think you hear it. It's like you fight for justice for so long, and then you feel, how in this day and age are we still being let down on an issue that seems so bipartisan? I mean, if there ever was one, like, sex trafficking is bad and sex traffickers are bad and the victims of those should be protected. How do we not agree with that?
Yeah.
Sorry for my rant.
No, I love you.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I feel frustrated because I feel like, what can we do? And him saying that all the law firms need to band together doesn't really make me feel good, because I don't think that's going to happen. So what do we do? What can we do? We can talk about it. We can make sure we stay current. I think, it was really interesting how fast the royal family moved against one of their own this week. And, in the US, we don't have a king. We don't have royalty, because the law is king, right? That's the US Constitution that I talked about on our last show. It's designed so that we're all protected. The citizens are protected. And I don't feel like we're protected right now. I don't feel like we did a good job protecting the women who were victims in this case. And I'm sad. And I'm glad that we talked about it. I'm glad that we listened to Amanda. if I come across as this, I don't want to even spend any time on it, but I have to. I mean, we all have to. We have to find our journalists or our attorneys or someone who we trust who's in the files and not just reading them once, but cross comparing them. Because a lot of the emails were legitimate, but there's some that's not. So you have to be really careful with that part of the investigation as well. Let's go to my wildlife. I was like, last time I just had to end it. I was like, all right, I'm done. That was heavy because my heart is full of hurt. My heart hurts for everybody. And the fact that there were suicides, I mean, it's just devastating. Let's go to my wildlife. Okay. I keep having deer. Every night there's deer in my backyard, and they're so up close that they're not even interesting anymore. Because last night I had 3 sets of deers just in the snow. So when I was looking at my media player, I saw my here, I'll show you what I saw. I'm going to share this wildlife. We'll end on a good note. And this is, well, I'll tell you after I share it. I'll share it a couple times because it goes by pretty fast. Do you know what that is? I think this was 2 years ago. Anyone know what that is? The kitty cat? That is a bobcat. I've only had 3 bobcats. We've lived in this house for over 20 years, almost 25. And it's not a mountain lion. A mountain lion would have a longer tail. The short tail is a bobcat. Is it cute? Now, Lisa and Scott and Maddie and Nikki, who are on here, are probably 3 miles as the crow flies from me across fields and woods, longer if I take the road. And they get bobcats every summer because of their landscape. Mine is more forestry with a beaver pond at the bottom of the hill. They have more fields. And I think that the bobcats like hunting in the fields. See, I'll show you one more time because it's so cool. So they get these all the time. They get more than one, but I've only had 2 or 3 that I can remember. Wildlife always makes you feel better, by the way, doesn't it? All right, let's go to the next one. Let me see what else I have here. I had a couple of them set up for us to look at. I don't know which one we just looked at, to be honest with you. Oh, okay. This is cute. I don't care if you guys want to see this. It's good for our soul to start our Friday off like this after what we just saw. Okay, let's see if you know what this is. Little chunky guy. I gotta get a better shot. That's not a great shot. But see the path his tail makes? I'll give you a hint. He's headed to my beaver. It's a beaver. The beaver pond, which is behind our house. See how he comes? He makes a path with his tail. It's a little beaver. Yeah. So the beavers come up, and people say this is really dangerous because they get close to us, but they don't. They don't get close to our house. What you're looking at right there is we have a line of burning. He's a thickums. We have burning bushes as a like natural fence, and they like to chew on them in the winter, drag them down. So you see how his tail has he's making a path. He'll make a path all the way down about 50 yards to the beaver pond and bring the burning bush. And honestly, they can take those burning bushes down to a stump, and by spring they fill in so quickly. We don't even mind. We don't mind. One more view. I just have a couple more. Love my wildlife. Hello. Hello. That's one of the beavers. I have a lot of pictures of the beavers. They like to come up. Let's see what this one is. Oh, This was a big hit. I showed it. This is a different one than what we saw last time because I get them every fall. Hold on, Princey. Prince is ringing a bell. My dog rings a bell when he wants to go outside. Is that not the cutest thing? Hold on, I'm gonna play this. Guess what that is? That's Boo a bear. That's Boo the bear. He's so cute. I think I have another bear too because I just love them. All right, that was that. Hold on, Prince. I mean, you guys aren't surprised that my dog rings a bell, right? Of course he does. Oh, this is one from the beginning of winter. Hold on. There it is. Hello, Foxy. Hello. So in the springtime, we have just a litter of foxes in the neighborhood, and there's so many of them. And sometimes I look out when it's running with a squirrel in its mouth, and I feel so bad for the squirrel. But that is, I mean, they do have to feed their families, so I understand that. Yeah, he is very handsome. I could show you. I mean, I could show you 50 foxes. There was one spring where we had them living everywhere, under the shed, our neighbors had a family of like 5 under their front porch. I would see 5 frolicking. That's it. Okay, that was fun. What side I say? Whoa, Wild Kingdom. I'm going to camp in your backyard. You can. You absolutely can. Sea otters will attack if they're pregnant, trying to protect their baby. River otters, so I have otters. I don't know if are they river otters? The beavers and the otters kind of look alike. I do have otters. They don't come up to our property though. They stay on the pond. Yeah, so we have a bell on the door, and when we're not paying attention and Prince wants to go out, he hits it. He's down there smacking that bell. But it's okay. It's snowing, Prince. I'm going to open the door and he's going to turn around and walk away. He doesn't want to go out. He thinks he does, but he doesn't. River otters are skinny. Yeah, they're skinnier. They're shiny. I think that's all I have. I don't think I did I have anything else? Let me think. I thought I did 2 of the black bear because they're always so popular. No, that was it. That's the otter. All right. Thank you, everyone, for spending. See, that's a nice way to end. I have to remember after we do this to take a breath. It's funny. I was trying to do the poll. Of course I was the whole time we were listening. And I don't have the plus sign. I don't know if it's because I've been having issues streaming to X and Facebook. So maybe I have to clean those issues up. Although ChatGPT said it shouldn't matter. But I will figure that out. That's something to look forward to. I am thinking about doing another cult episode. I have a bunch of people who have asked me to tell the story, and I feel bad because I say, well, go listen to when I was on the podcast, A Little Bit Culty, because it does a good job. It's an hour-long video. But then I'm like, well, that's kind of lazy. I have a lot of new people on the channel, so maybe we'll listen to my podcast again this weekend just to freshen up everyone on what happened with the cult for all the new people. So I hope everyone enjoys their Friday. Thank you for listening. I didn't want to listen to that alone. So I appreciate you. And everyone, take care. Have a great day. Have a great weekend.